Hey everyone, in this video I thought it would be good to go over the reference grant feature, which was previously known as reference policies, that we introduced in the 0.2 release of the Consul API Gateway. The purpose of this feature is to help organizations with controlling which namespaces the API Gateway is allowed to route requests to. Here's an example. In this diagram I have three namespaces: default, prod, and staging. Let's say the gateway is residing in the default namespace, and I'm routing requests from external clients to a service called web in the production namespace. We can do that, and everything's working great. But let's say that web service is experiencing some issues, or we're concerned about an influx of traffic, and I decide that I want to also route requests to the web service that's in the staging area. This could work, but it also could make the owners of the staging namespace angry, because maybe they have some version of web with some cool new features that wasn't ready for production yet. Now with 0.2, we can run through the same scenario, but now I have what's called a reference grant policy in place, and that says that I'm allowing the prod namespace to receive routes coming from the gateway in the default namespace. Without this policy, the request would fail. So let's say again I try to establish that same route, I'm going to get a connection refused error, and everybody in the staging environment is going to be happy. So let's see what this looks like in practice. So here in the Consul UI, I have our HashiCorp application running. I also have an API gateway deployed. You'll notice that I have no upstreams that are available to this, but if I go over to my terminal and I look at my routes, you'll notice that I have a gateway route already established. And if we look at this in detail, you'll notice that it's in an invalid state. And the reason is because I am not allowed to do cross namespace referencing without a matching reference policy. So what's happening is that the Consul API Gateway is running in the Consul namespace, but the application is actually running in the application namespace. And to show that, we can pull up our pods here. So if we look at our Consul namespace, you'll see I have the API Gateway service running as well as our other components. And if I run a get pods in the application namespace, you'll see that everything's running properly. So what I can do is I can apply what's called a reference grant. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So here what I'm doing is I'm going to apply this in the application namespace. And I'm saying that any incoming requests from the gateway resource, so this type of brew, and this type of request can come from the Consul namespace. And specifically, I want it going to the Nginx service, which is what we're using as our front end. So let's go ahead and apply this. And so now we've created this. If we go back over to our Consul UI, you'll notice that now we have a routing configuration in place. What this is doing is this is showing that the route has been attached properly, and we have the path going to our Nginx service. Right now, you'll notice nothing is working when we try to access that front-end service. We're hitting that API gateway through a node port service right now. But if I refresh it, now we have our application running. To show what happens if I decide to revoke access, let's say that I don't want users being able to hit this, or I want to change the version, what I can do is I can delete that reference policy. Gotta delete by the name. And so I've deleted that reference policy. And so now if I try to refresh my screen, you'll notice we get the same black screen again. And if we go here, we no longer have that route attached. This is a great way for controlling how the API Gateway is able to route between different namespaces. For more information, go to consul.io/docs. Thanks a lot.